So you want to create a video game? Well, you came to the right girl. My name is Helena and I have years of experience making video games, from tower defense to puzzle games to platformers. But before that, when I was 12 years old, I actually wrote my first novel. It wasn't the best, but it was pretty good for a 12-year-old. And then when I was 14, I wrote my first webcomic, and I went pretty far through Webtoon. And then when I was 16, I wrote my first visual novel, which slowly got me into programming. And then from there on and there on out, I realized my calling is to create games and to create something that takes all of the different forms of art and combines them together. So if you're watching this, you can probably relate to that. Creating games, to me, is the epitome of art. We have programming, we have art, actual visual art, we have music, we have storytelling, we have design, everything coming together to creating an immersive story that the players actually can experience firsthand and maybe do branching dialogues. To me, there's nothing more beautiful than that. But I understand what it's like at the beginning, when it's like so many doors of possibility and you don't know where to start. Well, let's get into today where you can start with game development no matter how far along you are or what your interest is. But before I start the video, I have to tell you guys about something super important to me. For almost a year now, me and 3 other female developers have been working together on a studio called CozyCat Games, developing a cozy baking game, kind of like Cooking Mama, but cozy. And it's called Madame Fifi's Bakery. You can play the free demo, link is in my description. Basically, we're trying to raise 55,000 Canadian dollars where you can pledge and get cool different perks and things in the game if you want to do that. And we have to reach 100% funded in the next 27 days. We're 10% funded with 3 days so far in the campaign, and it would mean the world to me if you're not able to financially contribute, then if you share the video, interact with our content, because we really want to go forward with this. And crowdfunding is a great way to fund because we can be more closely tied to the community and make a video game that you really prefer. Even if it's just $1, it really helps us in the algorithm. So thank you so much in advance. Let's start with the video. The first thing that I want to ask you is, what sparked your interest in game development? Did you play games as a kid, or was it something that you kind of evolved into as you grew up? For me, I was always a huge DSI kid on the playground. I was playing Pokemon Soul Silver day in, day out with that little Pokewalker that counts the steps that you do and then you can evolve the Pokemon. Oh my god, it was so cool. Anyways, I was addicted to that, and from that moment, I was like, this is what I want to do. But I didn't really think that it was possible for me to learn how to program and do all this. For me, it seemed like completely crazy. So I started with art and, you know, things evolved. And then I played Undertale, which, if you don't know, is one of the best indie games of all time. Seriously, that game changed me. But I played that, and then I played Doki Doki Literature Club, which is like a cute anime game, but it's actually really dark and scary. Anyways, I just kind of, as I got through the internet more, I'm pretty chronically online, I discovered more and more creations made by solo developers, and that was what really made me impressed. The fact that you could be a single person and have such an impact. The thing with AAA games, little tangent here, the thing with AAA games is they often don't have a soul. Because they are created by so many people and they're really just trying to make as much money as possible, they feel kind of empty. And there's something about indie games made by small teams that has always had that spark. So I want you to ask yourself, what was it that really made you go, okay, this is what I want to do? Whatever it was, that is what you need to follow. You really need to follow your heart. As corny as that sounds, you need to follow what you first were attracted to, because that's what's going to bring you the most fulfillment in the long run. Because I'm going to tell you one thing right now, game development is not easy. It is one of the hardest things to do, really. You have to do all of these different forms of art and bring them together. It is so difficult to execute well, but it is so rewarding, especially if it's something that you really feel called to do, like deep within your heart. So follow what you really feel desired and pulled towards. That's the very first thing. The next thing that you're going to want to do is to get educated. Really, education is power. You can't do anything without knowing how to do it, knowing the very first step. I think that the best way to learn, especially in my own personal experience, is to just literally do it, because you learn so much by failing that you'll never learn by trying to be a perfectionist. So I say that you try to make a shitty little game and tell yourself that it will be a shitty little game. Just a little thing that you can try out. How does an engine work? How does I program work? How do I integrate art? How do I create a story? How do I click buttons? All of this, the best way to learn is to actually do it. And the great thing about the internet age is everything is free and you have endless amount of knowledge. Anything that you want to do, even asking ChatGPT, all of it is available to you at your fingertips. A lot of people, when they start game development, have an idea for a game that they want to make that is their baby. They think about it all the time. That's their passionate idea. That's their number one. Don't make that as your first game. That's going to be my big advice to you. Don't make that game that you're super passionate about as your first game, because you're not going to be able to do it. And don't even make it as your second game. Honestly, make your shitty games first and tell yourself that they're going to be shitty games, because that's what's going to help you get the knowledge in order to make that really great game idea later. You really need to pick out which engine you want to use also. So for us at CozyCat Games, we use Unity. There is some controversy with Unity right now with some of the publishing, but if you're just doing it for educational purposes, I recommend using it. And then there's the free software, Unity Learn, which has tons of tutorials that go really in depth on how to make a car move, how to make little animals, how to do things, like everything. It's really cool. But you can also consider using Unreal Engine, which is if you're into more 3D. That one is a little bit difficult to code because instead of using C#, which you use in Unity, you use C++. So a little bit more difficult. Lastly, I'm also going to recommend that you use Godot. I haven't used it personally, but I have a lot of friends who do and they really enjoy it. That one is actually a big alternative from people that switched over from Unity and moved to Godot because they wanted to find a software that doesn't have the licensing issues and that is pretty easy to do. And I believe you can do drag and drop, so it's a little bit easier to code on Godot. Those are the platforms that I'm really going to recommend you use. I know that some people use Game Maker and they use RPG Maker and these kind of secondary ones that are a lot more visual. I personally wouldn't really recommend that because you're going to probably have to go to one of these main 3 platforms anyways later, so might as well just learn them right off the bat. Even if they're really overwhelming when you first open up the software, once you get used to it, you're going to feel like a mastermind. Believe me, you feel so cool once you actually understand what all the buttons do. One thing that I love about game development that you really don't get in as many other communities is the community itself. The fact that everyone is really tight-knit and everyone really wants each other to succeed is something that I haven't really seen in the tech space. In the art space a little bit, but not nearly as much as in the game development space. Everyone is really invested in playtesting, helping others, playing other people's games, hearing their stories, helping them out. Like, everyone is so kind and you can really get farther when you're in a team and a group with someone. For me, I've done some solo projects here and there before, but I wasn't, like, as soon as you hit the first obstacle, you hit a wall, and it is so hard to motivate yourself to keep on going. But if you're in a team, or even if you're just talking to other developers, you have that soundboard where you can talk off each other and kind of try to solve problems, motivate each other when the other one is down. So find your community, and trust me, in the indie game world, it is super easy to find. All you gotta do is go on one of those Discord servers. There's like public Discord servers available, or you can join our Discord server, which is linked in the description. We talk about game development a little bit, a lot of art, a lot of like cozy gaming stuff if you're into that. Otherwise, you can go into your city and search up if you have any clubs at local universities or high schools if you're in that level of education. There's tons of ways, and also there's a lot of like drinking, indie game dev drinking events where you go to like a bar together or something like that. Search your local cities and then indie game dev events. And you'll probably find maybe some Facebook groups even. Let's talk about freelancers. Something that you might run into as an issue when you're programming your game, or if you're creating the art for the game, is you'll need someone to create music or create art or create whatever. The skill that you don't necessarily have, you're gonna want that from someone else. Let me tell you that that's not necessary to do unless you do a commercial project. So if you're just learning, please feel free to take other people's art and music as long as it's allowed to use for not commercial use, and you're just allowed to use that. You can find tons on the internet completely available for free. However, if you are looking at doing a commercial project, before you go to freelancers, something that I'm going to suggest you do, especially if it's a big thing in your game development, is actually to team up with another developer. That's what we did at CozyCat Games. For me, I'm the marketer producer. I kind of have knowledge about all of the different aspects of game design, but I'm not in depth in everything. But all of my team members are in depth in their thing. We have an artist who is an incredible artist and does all of the character background, etc. We have a programmer who's an incredible programmer and does all of the programming systems and everything and integration into Unity. And then we have a game designer who's really good at her job and doing all the systems and narrative and stuff like that. So everyone has a different strength and we make the team together. However, if you are one person, then you have a huge lack in art and you're trying to create a commercial product, it is better to just team up with an art and make a game together. That's my recommendation. Now, no one's going to buy your game if they don't know about your game. That is one thing that we're really good about at CozyCat Games. But with the Kickstarter, even though it's really, really hard, crowdfunding is one way to get funding for the development of our game. But it is really, really difficult because we have promoted our game a lot on TikTok, and a lot of the audience on TikTok is quite young and they're expecting mobile games. That's something that we really realized a lot when we started promoting our game. They're like, is this on mobile? Because naturally, if you're on your phone, you're gonna expect the game to be available on the phone. And the fact that we're promoting a Steam game or an itch game makes it a little bit more difficult. But I would recommend YouTube as a great platform to market your game. Also Reddit. Personally, I don't really use Reddit much, but I know it's good. Twitter, I wouldn't recommend because that's more for developers to talk to each other. There's not so many consumers of video games on Twitter itself, but it can work. I just haven't really seen success personally. Instagram is okay, especially the Reels function. And if you do, honestly, YouTube is my #1 suggestion because I feel like game developers spend so much time, and people who watch games spend so much time watching reviews. That's one thing that I really tapped into when I started making content here. I talked about Cozygames. I gave so many cozy game recommendations. Like if you scroll on my channel, there are so many. There's a women-made game, there's a cozy mobile game, there is a cooking game. There's all of these different recommendations that I've made. And then whenever I made one of these recommendation videos, I would kind of self-insert and self-plug. So that's one way you might want to do it. If you're making a tower defense game, you can talk about different tower defense games in the niche. Another thing you're going to want to do is make friends with other developers and make friends with influencers who play your type of game. And make it a natural thing. Don't make it seem like you're just using them or something like that. Talk to them, offer them a free demo, or offer them like, you know, that you're going to talk about their stuff in return for them talking about your stuff. Don't just ask things without giving. You need to give before you can get. So if you want people to make your game, you have to show them free value before that they get your content. So that's what I would recommend. And I find that the cozy niche, especially if you're making cozy games, it's a big market for that. There's a lot of things that you can tap into, tons of cozy influencers. So honestly, if you're just starting out, don't be afraid to reach out to people and say hi and leave them comments on their stuff, because if you help out someone, they're gonna be very willing to help you back out later on. That's all that I have for you guys today. This is just a short little one-on-one video. Let me know if you guys have any specific questions about game development or if you have any questions for us. And don't forget, please back us on Kickstarter if you're able to. If not, just leaving us comments, likes, interacting with our TikTok and Instagram content helps us so much, because we really want to turn our cozy baking game into a full game. Because also, don't forget, there's a free demo available to play, so you can play that one first and then decide if you want to pledge. Anyways, let me know if you have any future questions, what kind of content you want to see from me, and I'll be sure to make more videos as we go through the month in the Kickstarter campaign and update you guys in the process. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day. Bye.